Oh, look, now it's live. So hold on. Good evening, everyone, to the WTF America podcast. This evening is, well, after the holidays. We're going to get started with the rightful subject of gun control, President Obama, and I believe there's like what everybody's calling now to be an insurgency or sedition or something crazy happening in Oregon. So it's guaranteed to be in a very event-filled episode. Joining me this evening is Dennis Klaman. He was on the first one. He's kind of been the guy that likes to sit and talk. Dennis, you always bring a lot of good, fun things to the table, and welcome back to WTFA.
Well, thanks. I love being on them. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, I mean, it was kind of, your idea. I mean, we all kind of started working on it, and you said, hey, this sounds like a good idea. People need to spend more time talking.
I think it's a tough one for me in that, my wife and I, we talked about this a bunch. And what are we going to do? We see all these things happening, and what can you do, right? And my perspective has always been, whenever I have a conversation, just keep having that conversation, and help change perspectives. I don't think it's enough, though. Really, I think we have to take some actual action, like voting or being active in the community, to do something to change things, sort of like the insurrection folks, right? Maybe not that far, but
Well, I mean, it's actually, to me, it's pretty entertaining because it's I've been watching the media, I've been watching the news, and I've been and I said this the other night to D, and I said I was like, Facebook is fascinating, and that's why, and I'm like, it is just watching the social movement on an environment like Facebook, and to see this headline post up, and all the smaller blogs everywhere else that's little is all like, so militia guys have occupied this place in Oregon, and they're all just telling the story about what it is. But then when you hit mainstream media, it's all, these guys are terrorists, these guys are, horrible, it's all crazy stuff. But then you go on Facebook and you see how it's the polar opposites. You see people that are all like there's no conversation. It's people move to one side of the board or the other side of the board and meet in the middle to fight. They don't ever have a conversation. It's just only when the opinions cross. And you're right. It's like, why aren't people talking more? Why aren't people having this anymore? And you're right. They need to go out and vote. But even of it is terrifying. You saw your vote actually work.
I think I lost you.
You lost me? Did you lose me? Are you there?
There was a bit of mute there. All right, I'm fine. I can hear you now.
Oh, where did you lose me?
Oh no, I got you. No, it's fine. Don't worry about it.
Oh, okay. Faulty equipment.
Yeah.
So when was the last time you saw your vote actually work?
Well, that's a tricky one. One of the things that my wife and I have noticed in the elections is that when there's something on the ballot and you read the ballot, the topic and what's included, the pros and the cons, the thing that you think that you like, it's there, and you're like, okay, great, I'll vote for that. But then the con is some other piece that they've added to that ballot that you don't like and don't want.
You mean like when they did a funding for veterans, but by the way, the Patriot Act.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. It's a tricky answer. I can say like a lot of times, but then the other side, my vote didn't work, right? Where I get the negative impact of voting for that thing that I wanted, but I still had to put up a thing that I didn't want.
Meanwhile, completely sidetracking, your wife is blowing me a kiss right now. Every time you talk,
great.
My wife goes up and blows me a kiss. It's interesting.
Oh yeah,
I thought we had talked about this, the whole wife swapping thing, but apparently they didn't get the memo.
I am in so much trouble.
Yeah. I'll blame it on you.
All right, so let's start this conversation. What did I heard you say? You want to talk about guns?
So we've got gun control because President Obama came out and threatened executive action. And I think he was supposed to be making a speech on here either this evening or here in the very near future, where nobody knows what it is. Nobody really knows what he's talking about, but he's about to make some sort of executive order to strengthen background checks. At least that's what everybody's leaning toward, that he's going to get harder on the background check process for acquiring these firearms. And it keeps popping up, the background checks, the gun control. And on top of that, right before the holidays, the Fed tried to pass started a bill, and I'll have to pull up the numbers.
Oh, I know the one.
Yeah, they were trying to pull up the bill, or trying to pass a bill where they would essentially be banning all magazine fed weaponry, like all of it. Like, no, you're going to be stuck with a revolver and and a bolt action rifle.
Right.
And it was done right before the holidays. Everybody was I think, I don't know whether it was Thanksgiving or whether it was Christmas, but right before the holidays, nobody was paying attention, and it didn't make any headlines. Now, all of the people that I know, like even how in the circles that I run in, everybody was like, yeah, it's not going to pass. There's no way. But there's no one talking about it, so there's that. So the very first topic we've got is Obama threatening executive action against gun control, and this particular legislation passing. And then we're going to move into what's really going on in Oregon. And then I was hoping we could talk about the mysterious, like I keep hearing these bits and pieces of this chemical spill, or this natural gas spill that's happening in California, and that's your neck of the woods. So
yep, LA.
Well, LA is always covered in smog, though, isn't it?
It's not smog. This is methane.
Is there a difference between smog and methane?
Well, this is methane. The methane that's down there, I believe, is natural. And I think that the smog is man-made, right? It comes from the automobiles and the manufacturing plants.
But it's still natural. It's it's a byproduct of man.
Well, if you want to go there, I suppose that's true.
So, what is going on? So the story about Obama doing. Let me find it.
And while you're finding it, I'll mention something that I stumbled across yesterday. I was commenting on one of your posts, and one of your friends, Darren, he responded that it's an insurrection and it's illegal and they just can't do it. And
that's Daniel, which is really interesting that he would do that. He's an Army buddy of mine. He and I actually lived together at one point, and we were in Iraq together. He was in Iraq longer than I was, which is wow. But he, for him, when he said it, I was just like, you know what? I'm not even going to jump on that one, because I one, didn't have enough information, and two, I don't understand it. I'm like, why would you immediately jump to this? Now, have you watched any of the YouTube videos that these guys have posted up?
No, I haven't. But let me finish though. So I followed up and I asked. I says, well, what's the point of the Second Amendment then, right? Because what they're saying is, hey, the federal government is being oppressive and we're standing up, and that's what we're doing. And he said, that's insurrection. You can't take arms against the government. I said, well, what's the Second Amendment for? He says, well, that's not what it says. And I'm like, really? So I went looking, and I did lots of research in different areas, especially like Cornell law and areas like that, looking at interpretations of the Second Amendment. And what I found is that it's not cut in stone. It's not very definitive. There have been interpretations either way throughout our history, and nothing is, as of yet, clearly definitive. It's the opinion tends to lean towards. Okay, that's where it is today, and but what I came away with was that where it stands today, the general consensus, which goes all the way up to the Supreme Court, is that while citizens have the right to maintain firearms for the protection of their home, that doesn't necessarily mean that they have the right to maintain any type of weapon whatsoever. For example, let's say military grade, military class, military type weapons, okay? But there isn't anything that says they can't either. It's just that basically the interpretation goes to the right to bear and keep arms for a well-regulated militia, which is exactly what Daniel said. And that interpretation leans toward the military specifically now being the ones who have that right, not the general citizenry. Okay. And so with that in mind, it leaves open the possibility for government, be either state or federal, to restrict, to regulate the types of weapons that the everyday Joe can own. And I believe then, so this is to the point, I believe then that what Obama is doing is saying, look, we're just going to add some more regulation here around who can obtain weapons. So he's absolutely not outside the bounds,
Well,
except the the executive order thing, which I'm not too happy about, but whatever, that's a different story.
we'll see here. So I'm over on Vox.com, which I hadn't even actually. Did you know this site existed?
Yeah.
I don't use Vox very often, and so here's one opinion. Vox.com says, according to Politico, the changes will require more small-scale gun sellers to obtain federal licenses and therefore conduct background checks on their sales in an attempt to close what is widely but misleadingly known as the gun show loophole. So what it seems like to me is that even with the militia, right? Even with the militia, this has little to nothing to do with gun control. Obama's executive orders, what he's trying to do is he's trying to make it, well, at least it's assumed, because nobody really knows what's going on. He hasn't done anything yet. He's just meeting with officials. He met with Loretta Lynch today to consider what he could actually do without Congress. But it's coming down to, I want to make it so that every gun that is sold in America has a background check associated with it. Now, let's back the crazy bus up. Okay. What mass shooting in America in 2015, what mass shooting happened with guns acquired from a gun show or in a gun show state that didn't require background checks? The answer is, from off the top of my head, none. The mass shootings at Sandy Hook, I believe those were acquired through a gun store. The guns used in San Bernardino were acquired through a gun store. The guns that were used in the church shooting in, was it North Carolina? South Carolina were acquired from a gun store. The transfers that he's trying to fix is just trying to add another line to track down these firearms. Now,
wait, do you think that's the purpose, is to track down the firearms?
Well, that'd be the only thing that you're going to get out of a more stringent background check system. See,
well, it depends on what you do in the background check. Like, for example, if you require, let's say,
here's the thing,
background check, you might be able to identify some mental instability, and I think
that's first and foremost. You will never be able to identify mental instability, period. You'll be able to dip into somebody's medical records and see if they've ever been on any type of medication, if they've ever been seen by a psychologist, if they've ever been in a situation that might create PTSD. Now, if we go down that road, there will not be an American on the planet who would qualify. Not one. Now, I was explaining this to my mother the other day, who's former federal law enforcement. And my mother, I said to my mom, I said, hey, you need to really be paying attention to what's going on out here. She's like, what? I don't really, gun control is not an issue for me. I'm a law-abiding citizen. I'm like, yeah, if they get what they want, you as a law-abiding citizen will be disqualified from firearm ownership. And she said, that's not possible. You can't do that. I was like, yes, it is. You've been treated for cancer. You've been treated for PTSD. Dad's been treated for PTSD. I've been treated for PTSD. JJ, Steven, no one in your home would actually would be legally able to own a firearm if this passes. And my mom at that very second was like, wait a minute. And my mom is not a hardcore gun person. My mom believes that she has the right to defend herself. Now, she likes guns, and my dad believes he has the right to defend his family. But when I brought that to her attention, she started questioning and started thinking about it more. But when you go down to it, I mean, if you've ever purchased a firearm, there are your social security number, the serial number of the gun, and that's essentially it. This is your driver's license number. These are all identifying information that are attached to your serial number. Now, the serial number isn't supposed to be transmitted. None of that's supposed to happen, but you still fill it out on the form anyway. And, it's air quotes supposed to be destroyed. It's not supposed to be used in any type of registration, but that's exactly what's happening. Now, all of the firearms that have been used in all of the shootings recently have all been tracked. the black guns or the ghost guns that some of that crazy senator at one point was talking about with the 30 caliber clip. he was talking about guns that people build. Now, even if President Obama is able to pass an executive order that says you can't buy this from a gun store, you can't buy this without going through a gun store, I can go online right now and with $100 I can buy 80% lowers, and then with another 50, 70, or $100 I can buy the jig online to go and actually mill this out and make it a fully functional lower, and it is now a gun. It is now capable of being a firearm myself, and there's no way of tracking that. You'll never be able to track that. We also live in the age of 3D printers. The 3D printers, we met a guy the other day who was 3D printing vapors, like the little electronic e-cigarette things. I didn't even know that it was that point in time yet.
That's pretty intense, because that's an intricate thing. It's not just a tube or something. And
I mean, like, and he also like 3D printed his own little designs in it too. It was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. It was called a store called Vape 55. It was pretty cool. And he and so I mean, we've got those lawyers in Texas who have figured out how to 3D print guns. They've figured out how to 3D print full firearms and just lower receivers. Whether they're completely functional, whether they'll survive for a long period of time is irrelevant. They'll still put lead down range. So what he's trying to do is close a loophole that really doesn't exist. He's trying to put more legislation in a place where it's not going to do anything. It's really not. It's really going to do nothing but make more of a registry of firearms owners. And this is what these guys are worried about. The registry is going to...
here's something that I wonder about on this particular topic, because I mean, I saw a video where I believe Obama was talking about what he was going to be talking about, basically describing what you're just saying. And one of the things that he said, he said he didn't think that would stop criminals. And it's like, well, yeah. So why are you doing this again? I'm not quite sure.
Because I was given a Nobel Peace Prize for things I might do, and now I've got to live up to that.
Well, what bothers me about the whole gun control issue is that the main thing that's in the media that drives it are the mass shootings. We talked about this on the first one, I believe, right? Where if you take a look at the number of people who've been killed in mass shootings, any number is bad, but if you look at those numbers and compare them against the number of other people who are killed via other means, right, like knives or bats or handguns or something like that, not mass shootings, right, you'll find that those numbers are way higher, but no one talks about that. The only thing they talk about are the 293 people who've died this year from mass shootings. Really? What about the 10,000 that died over here? Really? That's what you want to focus on? I get very confused about that, and they want to implement gun regulation to reduce that, which doesn't address anything else. It's like, but you're still going to have these people dying from guns and other weapons. You haven't solved anything, and if you did, you saved 293 lives in a year. Wow, what about these 10,000? Right? Mm-hmm. Am I missing it?
No. That's the other portion that is just confusing to everyone. It's there's and you know what, actually I don't think it's confusing to anyone. I think it's confusing to people like you and I, or people who are actually stopping and talking or looking at the situation, but to the general public the media has driven it, and social media has driven it so far. I mean, you and I talked about this before, where it's even the stupidest of satirical articles become viral. That becomes their evidence. That's like, hey, there's my evidence that the world is flat. What? Like, it's on The Onion. Like, really? Like, man, and people are taking that as face value. So you can go on Facebook right now and you can say, I mean, you watch mine all the time. You watch my Facebook all the time, where people will post memes, and almost immediately, or as soon as I see it, I'm posting the actual link to the actual data. But my problem is how many people are actually reading the data?
Yeah, no, I think you're right there.
So it's we can talk about it till we're blue in the face, and that's the issue. So guns are the hot topic, hot button thing. I mean, flip through just if you've got television or satellite, just flip through it. Like we were listening to Fox News this Monday morning, and it was gun control, gun violence, gun control, gun violence. President Obama, gun control. What was it? Cancer statistics, gun control. Oh, by the way, this is what's happening in Oregon. These guys are violent terrorists. Moving on, gun control. What?
Wow.
Like, wow. I mean, I think I was talking to you about the other night when I was ready to write off Bill O'Reilly. When Bill O'Reilly stopped people and said, "Hey, the Native Americans, we were so nice to them, we were so sweet to them. The Pilgrims showed up, we were best friends." Da 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 da. And I'm like, wait a minute. Do you know the same country? Are we from the same country? Like,
right.
and you know what? I can say that I was oblivious to this fact too, because of Dee. Until Dee went off to chase her Indian heritage, I was like, yeah, we learned about Indians and the Trail of Tears and all those other wonderful things in high school. And then Dee comes back and is like, no, you don't understand. Genocide happened. And it's just the tip of the iceberg of the information, but we can feed it any narrative we want as long as we have tools like Facebook. Thank you, Mark Zuckerberg.
And Twitter.
I don't know.
That one post that I posted where you were like, oh, there goes the negative spin, and I was like, yeah, but all that article was talking about was what they picked up from Twitter and all of the babble that was going on Twitter. So really, the news article itself wasn't the negative spin. It was just pointing out the negative spin that was coming out of Twitter. So yeah,
but people follow Twitter. I mean, look at this again. Like I do it. I'm a person that does this. A news incident happens. I'll go to Twitter and I'll punch in the geographic location and the general topic. Okay, and 9 times out of 10, I get real-time tweets from the people that are there. Like I haven't tried it on the Oregon militia thing yet. And it's probably going to be it's too far now. So now it's all the media tweeting about it. But I bet you if you were to go through that and look at it, I bet you there are guys there that are actually on the ground there tweeting about what's really going on. But nobody's going to take that story and ask any questions.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yep. Yeah. That reminds me of what I was saying earlier about the issue there, where all you currently hear in the media is these guys took over this place, and they're terrorists and whatever. And that's really it. That's all you hear. And I said, but I know that there's more to that story because the Bundys are involved. And I did a lot of reading when they had that issue down in Texas, was it? No, Nevada. That's right. Mm-hmm. When their father was having an issue in Nevada, and it's not really the same thing, but it's close. It's all related to federal land ownership.
It's the BLM.
Well, this one's not BLM, right? The Bundy one was BLM. This one is Fish and Game.
Well,
not Fish and Game, but what's it called?
Okay, so
basically.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, go ahead.
Correct me if I'm wrong. If I'm misunderstanding what's going on. So the two guys, they were trying to get they were burning property. They were burning the edge of their property to make sure to clear brush away for whatever reason. Somehow the fact of the matter is they burned land that was owned by the federal government. Now it was a small piece of land from the things that I've heard. They were brought up on charges. They were brought up on charges for that. They went to jail. They got out of jail, and then somehow got charged with terrorism, which is an automatic 5-year sentence. Yep, this is what I'm getting from my sources. They were automatic. They were charged with terrorism, was an automatic 5-year sentence, and they're supposed to be turning themselves in today.
Yeah.
And as a response to this, their militia, showed up and walked into this wildlife refuge headquarter building and are just hanging out.
Oh, that part's not true. As far as I can tell, it's not true. Yeah, those fellow Hamill, is that their name?
Ammo, something like that.
Yeah. the people who walked in and took over that refuge are not associated with those fellows.
Yeah, there's a spinoff.
Right, but I mean, I'm saying is that they didn't say, "Hey, you're part of our group. We need to do something about this." None of that. What I had read, and whether or not it's true or not, because I didn't find enough sources, was that they don't. They never ask. They don't agree. They don't approve. You know what I'm saying? It's not like they don't disagree. It's just that they didn't say,
Go do
"Yeah,
this.
we're glad these guys." Yeah, exactly. You're not doing this in our name. You're doing this for yourself, right? Don't associate us. We understand why you're doing it, but don't, it's not on us. No relationship, basically, right? No direct relationship.
Well, I mean, they're being charged with terrorism and they're going to prison.
I didn't know that. I knew they were being charged with illegal burning.
Yeah. So it's for me to distance myself as an act of preservation, but what is it? So what are we looking at here? Are we just looking at a group of good old boys who are out there deciding I want to get my AR-15 and go be a militia?
Well, let me ask, because you said something that I didn't get to find out about, which is odd because you think that'd be the first thing I'd find out about. What they burned, was that on their own private property next to the federally held land, or was it on the federally held land where they did the burning?
Oh, you're breaking up.
Oh, that's too bad. I hate that. What I'm saying is, did the burning, when they did the burning, what did they burn on their own private land, or did they burn on the federal land?
I don't know. I'm gonna look that one up. I'm gonna find out.
Yeah, I want to know. So like in the Bundy scenario, this is Nevada, owned by BLM. The federal land's owned by BLM.
So I've got what is this? The conservative treehouse.
Oh yeah,
this will be normal. The short summary: in an effort to draw attention to a ridiculous arrest of a father and son pair of Oregon ranchers Dwight Lincoln Hammond Jr., 73, and his son Stephen Dwight Hammond, 46, who are scheduled to begin 5-year prison sentences, turning themselves in tomorrow, January 4th, 2016. 3 brothers from the Cliven Bundy family have approximately 100 to 150 and growing armed militia, former U.S. service members, have taken control of the wildlife refuge. So let's find out, because this doesn't even tell me. Wait. The Basin Hammond Ranch is established. Wait. So the history, the Hannery Basin, where the Hammond...
I lost you.
The valley was settled by multiple ranchers in 1908. Dang, they go really far back.
Yeah.
Man,
well, the issue goes back more than 100 years.
Let's see. I'm looking for the arson. A-R-S... Oh, arson. A-R-S-O-N, right?
A-R-S-O-N.
There we go. Mm-hmm. In 2011, 5 years after the police report was taken, the U.S. Attorney Office accused Dwight and Stephen Hammond of completely different charges. Let's see. Go up a little bit. In 2006, a massive lightning storm started multiple fires that joined together, inflaming the countryside. To prevent the fire from destroying their winter range and possibly their home, Stephen Hammond, the son, started a backfire on their private property. The backfire was successful in putting out the lightning fires that had covered thousands of acres within a short period of time. The backfire saved much of the range and the vegetation needed to feed the cattle through the winter. Stephen's mother, Susan Hammond, said, the backfire worked perfectly, said, quote, the backfire worked perfectly. It put out the fire, saved the range, and possibly our home. The next day, federal agents went to their Harney County Sheriff's Office and filed a police report making accusations against Dwight and Stephen Hammond for starting the backfire. A few days after the backfire,
on their private property?
A range con from the Burns District BLM office asked Stephen if he would meet him in town, Frenchglen, for coffee. Stephen accepted. When leaving, he was arrested by the Henry County Sheriff, Dave Glurp, and the BLM Ranger Orr. Sheriff Glurp then ordered him to go to the ranch and bring back his father. Both Dwight and Stephen were booked on multiple Oregon state charges. The Henry County District Attorney reviewed the accusations, evidence, and charges and determined the accusations against Dwight and Stephen Hammond did not warrant prosecution and dropped all charges. And that was in 2006, it looks like.
That's way back.
Yep. In 2011, 5 years after the police report was taken, the U.S. Attorney's Office accused Dwight and Stephen Hammond of completely different charges. They accused them of being, quote, terrorists, end quote, under federal anti-terrorism effective death penalty act of 1996. The act carries a minimum sentence of 5 years in prison and a maximum sentence of death. Dwight and Stephen's mugshots were all over the news the next week, posing them as arsonists. Susan Hammond, wife and mother, said, "I would walk down the street or go in a store. People I had known for years would take extreme measures to avoid me." Shortly after the sentencing, Capitol Press ran a story about them, a person who identified as Greg whatever. So that's what happened. They set a backfire. They got charged with arson.
But that's back in 2006.
Yes, but then in 2011 they were charged with terrorism.
Yeah, link me that one.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah,
and this is the thing. So when I first started reading about this, I was like, wait a minute, what?
Right.
What is going on here? Like,
why did they wait so long, and why are they still pursuing? That's what I want to know. From what I understand, and things that I've seen online, if for some reason the Fed got an indictment, now they got charged, and it seems like they've been charged and convicted, and I haven't seen anything about this because they're supposed to start serving. There we go. During trial proceedings, a federal court judge, Michael Hogan, did not allow time for certain testimonies and evidence into trial, which would exonerate the Hammonds. Federal prosecuting attorney Frank Paganini was given full access for 6 days. He had ample time to use any evidence or testimony that strengthened the demonization of the Hammonds. The Hammonds' attorney was only allowed 1 day. Many of the facts about the fires, land, and why the Hammonds acted the way they did was not allowed into the proceedings and was not heard by the jury. Example, Judge Hogan did not allow time for the jury to hear or review certified scientific findings the fires improved the health and the productivity of the land, or that the Hammonds had been subject to vindictive behavior by multiple federal agencies for years. Right.
So,
let me say something there, because I think that's kind of important. Unless they need a burning permit or something like that, why can't they start a fire on their own property?
But it's their private land, so even on their private land, you don't need
but it's still, I mean, that's the way it is. Well, here in California, right, it happens all the time. You got the orchards, right? You know, the apple, the avocado, whatever orchards they are. They have to go through and trim back, and they have this big pile of leaves and branches and stuff like that. Well, the best way to do it is to burn it, but they have to burn it either on certain days and or have a permit. Okay, so I can get that. That's fine, but it's on their property, right? And I would expect that might be the same thing in Oregon, although Oregon tends to be a little bit more open, so they might not have that burn requirement, but it's on their property. That's why I'm kind of curious about it. If they did it on their property, who cares? Why are they having an issue? Then the other issue was, because I heard two different things. One is they did a backfire to stop the fire that was encroaching towards their property from lightning strike. Got it. But I also heard that they were burning. They set the fire to get rid of certain vegetation that was being invasive. So I don't know which one to believe now.
Well, that's the thing is you're gonna like I wish I could talk directly to the attorney, to talk to their attorney, to talk to either one of them, because there's way more to this, and we're in the age of information overload. So that's the thing. Let's just spin the narrative the way we want to spin the narrative. I just got a message I'm not sure how old this is, but it's breaking news. President Barack Obama said Monday he will use his legal authority to issue executive actions to close loopholes in the country's gun laws. Obama said he will move forward on requiring background checks for guns purchased from dealers, whether bought online or at gun shows. Earlier in the day, Obama said from the White House that gun violence has taken a heartbreaking toll on too many communities across the country, with quote more than 100,000 people killed over the past decade as a result of gun violence.
Which, if you look at the numbers, is actually down over that same period of time from the period before. And two, what is the source of that violence? That's what I want to know. Where's the source of those 100,000 people? Where are they dying from in gun violence? Are they dying from
police brutality,
gun violence from law-abiding citizens, or from criminals who've stolen guns and just go out and kill people for whatever reason? I want to know that. Because if it's the latter, then what you've done is nothing. Because those criminals are still going to get weapons and they're still going to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm. The criminals are still going to keep going. They're still going to keep doing what they want to do. They're still going to, like, you find me a law-abiding criminal and I'll find you a gun legislation that works. I mean, that's the craziness that's going on. But you know, that's topic 2. So let's break down the Oregon guys again. You know, we've got these 2 guys who are going to prison for 5 years and could have very easily gotten the death penalty, but for no related charges. Like if we find out in the next couple of days or so where somebody comes back and says flat out, hey, these 2 guys, they actually were terrorists, they were planning some sort of terrorist activity, then the narrative will change. Then it'll make sense why they got brought up on terrorist charges. So let's ignore the fact that the militia took over in Oregon. Let's ignore that they set something on fire. Let's just focus on what created the opportunity for them to be classified as terrorists. What did they do? Now, from 2006 to 2011, we don't know. You know, these are ranchers. They've been doing their thing. The Bureau of Land Management has been trying to take their stuff. Now, was it you? You did. You posted or maybe it wasn't you. The map of the United States that shows that the majority of the western half of the United States is owned by the federal government.
Yeah, I posted one.
It was like, what? 30%. So what's going on?
28%, but yeah.
So what's going on?
I did post one of the ones that I posted to you this afternoon, Washington Post. That one, the third one down that I posted to you. That one goes in more detail about that and talks about the ownership and stuff. And it's a long history. It's over 100 years. Yeah. You really need to understand that one to get to where those guys are, right? And because if you, like you said, if you look at it, most of all of that is on the West Coast.
I've got so Twitter just happened. Sorry to interrupt you. Twitter just happened. An hour ago, CBS Evening News, President Obama signs an executive order on gun control, what it means and what the candidates are saying about it. Where's the link? I see the picture. Oh, how they're reacting coming up. Gee, thanks. Teasing me there.
That's it.
I didn't realize he had actually signed it.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? He signs an executive order. Basically, and if I check me, because I'm not sure, did he just create a law by doing that? Or did he make a modification? Because that's what he has the right to do. I don't think he has the right to make a law. I think he has the right to modify existing laws.
Oh, here it comes. So, but that's the thing, though, and this is not that I'm. But Donald Trump went on whatever news station he went on and made and correct. First hour of the first day, boom, it's gone. It's over. I don't have to worry about you and your executive orders. So we've got CNN. I guess we'll just leave the question out there for the Oregon guys, and we'll go to this one because apparently this is getting pushed real quick. and I want to make sure this isn't going to autoplay because you know that sucks. CNN, President Barack Obama said Monday he was confident on this. There's only that, blah, 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 blah. Pretty soon you won't be able to get guns, Donald Trump told CNN ahead of Obama's meeting. While we don't yet have the plans, where is it? Where is this executive order that he signed? Everybody's talking about it.
Are you looking for the actual?
Yeah, I want to know the verbiage.
Right.
I would love to know the verbiage. It would be great if it were actually like online. You know, that wonderful technology with the transparent government and everything else. No, the last one that was the last executive order that's on the whitehouse.gov is December 15th.
Yeah, they won't put that out that fast.
Somebody's got it somewhere. I'll wait for one of my news sources to send it over to me.
Wait till the Twitter guys do it. Someone will post it.
The Twitterverse.
The Twitterverse, yeah, they'll get it out there fast. I don't know how how that happened.
I've got a subject matter expert. I've got a subject matter expert who might be able to contribute. Hold on, let me find out. It's the beautiful thing about podcasts is I can edit that all out. But it's really one of those things where I want to know more, but most people don't have enough people to ask. So I've sent a message to a buddy of mine and see if he's going to be available to jump on. Oh, and he is. Okay.
Oh, here's that video.
So it's really so what are we saying? What are we doing with the Oregon one? Are we going to just stop and say, look, until we figure out what actually was the catalyst about causing them to be charged as terrorists? And you know what, I'm gonna have to make sure these links that we find to all of these wonderful ones. Where's the one that I just had? We're gonna have to make sure the links are in the I guess the show
the comments
here. Yeah, the comments section. Because as I run through it all, it becomes more clear that there's a huge gap. But the story, there it is, the conservativetreehouse.com. I'll make sure that's in there.
Yeah, that's a good one to have.
Here, I'll give you the link. Oh man, did you really send me a Blaze article?
Yeah. You don't like the Blaze?
Oh. Well, Glenn Beck, right before he left, what was it, Fox News? He went off the deep end. Like, he did.
Yeah.
Like he had a breakdown. And you know what? It was so structured. Like, it was the way that it all happened. At first I was wondering about the man because there was a comment that he made. Hold on. There was a comment that he made about the president, about the country, and all these other wonderful things. And then there was this huge thing where people were opposing him and his bosses had a problem. And then all of a sudden he spiraled out of control. Like, it couldn't just be Glenn Beck deciding to leave. Glenn Beck had to create an exit strategy for himself. And I was just like, is that what he did? So resentencing Oregon ranchers is double jeopardy. Well, maybe he does make some sense. I don't know. Will this play? Let's see if this will play.
Oh, I don't know if you want to do that.
Oh, why not? It'll get loud and angry.
No, I don't know about copyright.
Oh, well, we'll give the credit where credit is due if it actually works. And it might not matter anyway, because I think I've lost the window that it was in. So if it does start playing, it's just missing. No, it didn't want to play. Now, what is this you sent me? The Sagebrush Rebellion. What is that?
Oh, that was the first link I sent you. That one. Yeah, read that. That has background on one of the first issues that came out about because of federal land ownership in the West, and so it gives you some good history in understanding the issues and challenges, the concerns of the citizens with respect to federal land ownerships in the West versus in the east. So,
Okay.
and I think it's an important part for the whole conversation, because it's not just a bunch of crazy guys going out to the refuge and doing it. They might still be crazy, yeah, sure, fine, but there's got to be something that's driven them to do this, and just saying, oh well, it's federal land and they don't agree and therefore they're terrorists, and that's where you stop. It's like, well, that might be a little bit too quick to judge. Maybe you better look at some more information behind it and start digging in. Like, for example, the Bundy one. I want to go back to the Bundy one a little bit here. In the reading of the Bundy case, so Nevada ranchers, right? They've had access to the public lands for their cattle ranches for years, decades. Okay, and then over time, the federal government has decided to increase the fees for the use of that land and kept driving it up and up and up. I mean, drastically. It went up very fast in a very short period of time, effectively driving the ranchers off the land and closing their businesses. Why? And this is part of it. Okay. And I think that when you look at the situation that occurred in Oregon, there is some correlation. They're not really driving off the land, but the behavior of the federal government toward the ranchers up there have the same kind of feel, in the sense that we're driving you off this land. It's like, well, why? What's that? What's driving that? What's really behind this whole effort? What do you need with the land, federal government? How come you haven't turned it over to state and local control yet? There's more to it than just crazy guys who took over the refuge.
What the heck is that? I mean, I remember when the Bundy Ranch thing started, and I remember hearing the story about that, where it was they've been grazing the land for hundreds of years, however many years it was, and they had perfect, and they had this history, and then all of a sudden the land that wasn't controlled by anyone or that was owned by the government started deciding, we want your money from, and started taking it, in large pieces of, and you're right, it just drove them off the land. It just made sure that they were not going to be able to do anything with it. Which is fine. Okay, well, no, it's not fine, but it's the government land. They want their piece of the pie. They're going to subsequently raise the prices until they can't get the people who are doing it out. If you've ever owned a business, that's exactly how you do it. You raise prices so that it gets beyond the threshold of someone you don't want involved. But you're right. What was the catalyst? Why did they target? Why was it just the Bundys? Was it just this particular group of people? Was it everyone? Was it all of the land in that area? And I'm hoping
for Nevada, it was most of the ranchers in the area. That's correct. It's just the Bundys did something about it, and that's why they became news.
I'm chewing. Hold on.
Edit that part out.
Right, the chewing part.
Yeah.
I was trying not to eat.
So hey, is Jack joining the call? It looks like he's on.
He is joining. He's AFK, but he's got a lot of inside information on that. So when he gets back, we'll circle back around to this one, and it's going to be a very interesting conversation about gun control and the Oregon ranchers when we come back from that one. So it'll be interesting. So I think meanwhile, what was the other topic? What did we have? We
had three. We talked gun control. We talked the ranch, and then I don't remember what the third one was.
The weird.
Oh yeah, the
What's
methane.
going on out there with methane? What is that?
Yeah, I don't have enough information. I haven't really dug into it. About the only thing I know, well, I wouldn't say no because it's just what I read, and I don't necessarily know what I read.
I know you can't read. You're illegitimate.
No, what I meant is just because I read it doesn't make it true, right? I mean, Onion News, right? That it is considered a large natural disaster, not natural disaster, ecological disaster, much like the Gulf oil spill.
Yeah, the BP
right.
Deepwater Horizon.
Right. and they say it's on the same scale. One of the things that had me scratching my head a little bit, they're saying that the amount that's been 2 months, they say it's been doing this for 2 months.
But I haven't even heard about this.
I know, right?
I didn't hear about it
I know,
until the
just
other day.
last week was the first time I heard about it. That methane affects the greenhouse, right? The greenhouse gases thing. That's a part of it. It's like what they're putting out there basically destroys all the progress that we've made by having any EPA controls in place. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah, methane
Like that,
is significantly worse than CO2.
Oh, wait.
Hey,
Jack's back. Welcome, Jack.
I've returned. Yeah, methane is significantly worse in regards to greenhouse gases than CO2 by orders of magnitude.
Magnitude, yeah. That's what I heard, yeah.
So, Jack, Dennis, Jack, welcome to WTFA.
Hi, Jack.
Hello.
So, I sent you a message. We'll come back to the methane gas unless you want to expand on that one. But I sent you a message specifically because you know more about what's going on in Oregon. And I know you've been watching because you sent me the link about the Prez and his now loophole closing, everyone must register your guns kind of thing going on. So what is going on, Jack?
All right, essentially what happened in Oregon was you had a rancher running land up there, and his land, of course, was rather close to national forests and state forests and whatnot, so government-controlled land. And what they've been trying to do for the past while, the government, that is, Department of Forestry and the Bureau of Land Management, is they've been trying to expand the government-owned land. And what they're doing by that is they're attempting to push out small-time ranchers. For example, a number of years ago, they diverted a river which flooded a bunch of ranch lands. And then those ranchers were forced to sell because, of course, their land was underwater and thus pretty useless for cattle. So then they immediately bought the land from said ranchers and undiverted the river and managed to steal all the land.
So wait. You mean the ranchers didn't just shift and start ranching a bunch of manatees? You know they call those sea cows, right?
Oh, sounds good.
I think I would have been a creative rancher. I'd have been like, oh, cool, manatee.
Now, where's your resources for this? I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you at all, but I would like to see the resources because it adds. I think it really adds to that conversation, right? What you see in the you don't see this in the media, at least not the media that we've been looking at, right? And that sort of really, in my mind, is the whole thing that drove to where we are today. But nobody talks about that.
Oh, see, that was the other thing I was going to warn you about, Jack. You got to cite your sources. So inside the Hangout, inside the Hangout, you'll see on the right hand side you can click the chat thing. I think you know how to use it. You join the chat. Just if you've got references, or you've got sources that you can give us, and you don't want to talk about, put it there.
All right.
But don't be like Jack's House of Pain, okay, or any of your other domains that would not be appropriate. But so where are you getting the majority of this information? Just, you're researching. You've got boots on the ground.
Sure.
I have my sources.
We'll leave it at that.
We'll leave it at that. Okay. So.
I don't disagree. I would believe that just based on the stuff that I read from the Bundy stuff. Totally agree.
So I am trying to get my windows right.
Also, here's something I'll throw out there too, just for the fun of it. When I was doing the research on the Bundy Ranch issue, guess whose name popped up a lot? You'll never guess. It was Harry Reid, Senator Harry Reid.
Hey, call them domestic tourists.
Yeah. And he's responsible for BLM. And that's not where it stops. It doesn't stop with it. He's just, he's the person responsible for managing BLM. Apparently there have been some deals, some land deals that have resulted from him and his management of BLM. And that should be illegal.
Wait. Harry Reid got deals because he was managing BLM?
He was making deals because he was managing BLM.
Well, I mean, that's the way the game works, isn't it? That's the way the game has always worked. Is the
Wait,
guy...
you have a government official who is pushing certain ranchers off the land and then selling land to other people to do what they want to with it.
Yeah, that sounds like business as usual to me.
Okay.
I'm just.
Facetious. I got it. I missed it.
It sounds like business as usual to me. My government experience, my interactions with the federal government is exactly that. Give me what you have.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't want. Well, who was this? Says it? Who was? I can't remember who said it. The government takes what they want and taxes the rest. Okay, it's a terrifying notion, but it's true. It's if they want what you have, they're gonna get it. Period. They're coming for guns, they're coming for our property, they're coming for everything in the United States, because if they own it all, they can dictate it all. And if they own the people who own the property, then what? Well, so Jack, go on. They got forced off their land.
Well, no, not these guys that they're currently protesting on. So there's just an ongoing history of the BLM attempting to expand control of land, because the vast majority of these land deals that these rangers have been running have been in control for generations in the family. So they've been trying to suck that back into federal government for quite some time now. Now, here's an example of what happened in this case. The guy running the current ranch under siege, or not under siege, the current ranch attempted to create a backfire to clear out weeds in his area. It got out of hand and ended up burning around 160 acres or so. And then, so naturally, the cops put him in jail for 6 months for arson.
No, wait. No, wait. Now, from what I've read in out there, and we were just talking about it right before you came on, was they burned 150 acres, but saved thousands of acres.
I mean, I don't know about to save thousands. I mean, thousands of acres burn every year in northern Oregon and Northern California. So, it's irrelevant. But so, and then as soon as this guy got out of prison, judges immediately turned around and tried to slap him with terrorism, because it was considered intentional in nature, because he did intentionally light the backfire. It wasn't an accident. So he intentionally.
Now, how long after they got out of prison did they get slapped with these charges?
I don't know off the top of my head, but it's pretty recently.
Yeah, from what we were reading earlier, it was the fire incident, the backfire incident happened in 2006. Through Starbucks, enticements, they got arrested. They got the son, and then they sent the son in to get the father, and they brought them out, and they brought them up on charges, and then went through the show of convicting them. They went, and they didn't get to tell their side of the story. They didn't get any information. The prosecution got all sorts of time to do their thing, yada yada, blase blase. But it never really says how long it took. So the fire was in 2006. Did they go to jail because of the fire?
Indeed, they served. I want to say a reduced sentence. So I want to say something between like 6 or 12 months each, based on it, because it was an accident. They didn't intentionally run around and try to set the fire and try to intentionally burn the government land. Okay, so then they got taken out, and now the arson charges are being tacked on to the terrorism charge, because apparently what he did was terrorism, because there's an intentional destruction of government property, and the terrorism charge carries a 5-year minimum. So judges attempted to get them to go back for the 5-year minimum regarding the terrorism.
I don't. I mean, I know that that's the actions that they're taking, but I'm not a lawyer. I wish I had a lawyer in my pocket that I could just be like, hey, do you understand what's going on here? Because it really, I mean, am I the only one who's like, it makes zero sense? You went from arson charges, you served 6 to 12 months, you got out of jail, and now I'm sending you back to jail years later for terrorism charges. Did you sleep with an agent's wife? Did you get caught with that? Because that would make it right. That would make
Double
it all
jeopardy.
That would make it completely make sense. Be like, what really happened was he got caught banging my wife, and I'm in charge here, and I'm mad. So send this guy to prison. Wouldn't that? I mean, that would make it make more sense, wouldn't it? Other than just, hey, you're a terrorist. Wait, what?
No. Not necessarily. I like where Jack was going in the first place, which is the BLM's trying to push people off the land. And someone got in behind the judge and said, hey, look, and by someone I mean federal government, got in behind the judge and say, hey, look, we need you to do something about this.
Well,
That's all speculation. There's no proof of that.
It's the standard federal government trap. So everyone who works for the federal government, of course, wants a bigger federal government because that ensures job security.
I like this guy.
the more the BLM-owned land grows, the more they can afford to pay the people who run the BLM. So because the federal subsidies are based on the size of the land, of course, it makes a little bit of sense. But so you just increase the amount of land, and boom, you've now got more money in your pocket.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Okay, so we're trying to drill down into the why of this. Like, why are they doing that? They're trying to force the guys off. They're trying to force people out. They don't want anybody on their lands. Got that? Okay, so we've made it to that point. That's what it's clear they're trying to do, and they're trying to set an example. Because if you set an example, none of the other ranchers are going to screw with you. Period. Right? You send these guys away for 5 years. No one is ever going to screw with you again. They're going to be like, we're not going to play with them. They send people to prison. Okay. Now you get the father and son, right? It's a father and son who are going to prison, okay, which sucks. And then you've got the Splinter group, which I love how they're using like Splinter and all of these wonderful little ways to segue graciously into calling them a terrorist organization versus a militia. They walk in, they hang out. They're occupying this thing, and now you've got very few major news sources actually covering it. But now we're back to the Oregon militia, and these guys are terrorists for seizing this place. They're no better than the San Bernardino shooters. So what do we got? What do we have?
Mainstream media.
Welcome to mainstream media.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's terrorism, a completely peaceful protest when they've got guns. But on the other hand, if there's massive riots going down in like a city like Baltimore or something, that's not terrorism.
Well, it's still, even in the massive riots in cities like Baltimore, they're not walking around with assault rifles, Jack. They're not walking around with bullet button equipped, 30 caliber clip, highly tactical military assault rifles. That's the point. So these guys.
That's the only point?
Well, I mean, that's the only difference. In one place,
no, the other one, there's a lot of damage to public and private property.
Oh no, those are the riots. Yeah. Well, we're talking about peaceful protesting.
Right.
These guys haven't damaged anything.
No.
They've not torn up anything. They've just got their guns available to them. I'm sorry, that's not illegal. Is open carry illegal in Oregon?
No.
So they could just be a bunch of guys who decided we're going to come hang out at the hunting lodge and drink some beer.
Yeah. Well, they did make some statements, though. We're staying here, and you will not remove us by force, or someone may get killed.
So what can they? Well, did they make the actual threat that someone's going to get killed?
I haven't seen the video.
I mean, you're always going to have that one guy.
That one guy?
And by guy, I mean federal agent who's going to claim, yeah, dude, we're totally going to shoot them if, it happens that way.
Oh, that goes back to that one. Who was that? Montel Williams, right? I posted that one.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. Montel Williams posted.
It's like, what's that?
I was like, where did Montel Williams come from?
It's like, what the heck, man?
I'm like, Montel Williams, you haven't even
crazy.
He hasn't talked in years, and the first thing you say is you come out and you say, the first thing you say it was first thing you say is flat out these guys are terrorists.
You send in the National Guard to kill them. That's
I'm like, wait, who are you? Isn't this the guy who pioneered the he is the father? Wasn't that his claim?
No, that was the other guy. That was that's the other guy.
Man, so now we've got the Oregon guys. We've got threats to the National Guard. Jack, what do you think? What do you think these guys are doing? What do you think? Do you think what they're doing is illegal? Do you think what they're doing is crazy? Do you think they're terrorists? I mean, we should just go around and be like, who thinks they're terrorists? Show of hands.
Well, it depends. If you take the textbook definition of terrorist, which is using violence or intimidation to gain a political agenda, then yes, they can be considered terrorists. If you compare that to the actions, I mean, there's always a terrorist who's also a freedom fighter to someone else. So
Washington.
You can't just call them terrorists. The people in Iraq that all throughout Iraq, they were freedom fighters to themselves and terrorists to others. So
that's the same way they're operating right now. I mean, we can say that about ISIS. They're terrorists to us and freedom fighters to themselves.
So it depends on the point of view, but I would not consider them terrorists. I think what they're doing sets a precedent that's gonna be reacted to negatively. You're gonna see more places banning assembly with firearms, for example, like California has. Here, let me pull it up.
Well, I mean, it's so what you think they're doing? You think they're going about it the wrong way?
Yes and no. I think they should assemble and keep the guns ready. I don't think walking around in full tac gear is a great way to get your point across, because at that point, they're really just intimidating. And when the government sees it as intimidation, they're going to counter-intimidate by passing laws. This, for example, which is what banned open carry in California, was a direct result of the Black Panthers open carrying at the California state capitol. And you're just going to see these reactions coming out of politicians because it's what they do. So, I mean, I'm not against the right to bear arms, and I'm not against the right to peaceful assembly. But when you combine those, it makes it very difficult for law enforcement, and you just need one bad apple for the entire thing to cook off into a gunfight. Like at the Bundy Ranch thing, you had the guy on the overpass with a Sega all tacked up, pointed it directly at the cops with a mag, and it chambered.
Right,
and
I remember that.
That could be considered brandishing, but they can't act against that. If they went and arrested that guy for brandishing, then the rest of the people are going to come. So, I think peaceful slung open carry. I don't think you open carry low ready. If you open carry low ready, you're a threat, and that's that.
Okay, Dennis.
Well, I linked over the definition of terrorism from the FBI, and it has 3 bullet points. I'll read them. Involves acts dangerous to human life that violate federal or state law. I haven't seen that yet. Appear intended to intimidate or coerce a civilian population. Haven't seen that. To influence the policy of a government by intimidation or coercion. Not quite sure that's there. That might be. Or to affect the conduct of a government by mass destruction, assassination, or kidnapping. Nope. And occupy primarily within the territorial jurisdiction of the U.S. So I think the "and" makes a difference, but they certainly are occupying within the territory. Yeah, exactly. But they didn't do the other 2. So I think by FBI's definition, they're technically not terrorist.
Intimidation's very open. You could easily consider 150 plus armed dudes as intimidation.
Well, what I heard, that would be true. What I heard was most of them left, and there's like about 10 or 12 dudes left.
Yeah, there's a significant amount leaving. I mean, I heard, I can't confirm it yet, but that the ranchers have turned themselves in. So.
Oh, I saw something. Maybe that was a misreport. I also just saw, and I thought I posted it. Maybe I didn't. Nope, it wasn't. I didn't post it. Was saying that those folks turned themselves in. Yep. The guys who are, and that didn't make any sense. Like, why? There's been no issue or concern as to why they would do that.
Yeah. Today was the deadline for them to return to prison because they've been ordered to return.
For the ranchers, yeah, I'm talking about the guys who are occupying. The ranchers aren't occupying.
So the ranchers left, but the other 2 guys turned themselves in, right?
The ranchers were never there. The ranchers never occupied.
No. I mean the militia guys. So we got the militia guys. They've left, right? The other 2 guys were never there. Okay. The other 2 guys were never there. They're on their way to prison right now, but they've got a warm and fuzzy. So they're going to go into jail. They're going to go into jail and tell all of their cellies that hey, look what they did for me. You saw this on news. This is all about us, and da 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 da, blah 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 blah. And they're gonna sow the seeds of a homegrown terrorist act. At least that's what it's being spun as to all they're really going to attempt to do. Now you've got for me personally, I don't know. I mean, I honestly see this as an open act of rebellion, an open act of you know what, F the government. Sedition. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to say it like that because I haven't decided whether it's a bad thing yet or not, because the government is run amok. The machine is out of control, and people are now just a big herd of cows they're just going to be led around by the nose, and they're just going to be doing whatever. Donald Trump is going to be the next president of the United States. Come on. You know, it's where are we going to, what is 2017 going to look like for us? Like if we make it to that far, you know, if there's not a nuclear war, if World War III doesn't break out between now and the next presidential election, what is our country going to look like? You know, it's going, you know, and that it's scary, it's crazy, it's insane. It's really one of those things where people are wondering what's going on, but people don't even know what's being taken from them. Most of the people in this country don't really care about guns. Most people are completely okay with getting up in the morning, putting on their clothes, going to their 9-to-5 job, stopping and getting themselves a caramel macchiato latte from Starbucks, and continuing on, going to their job, listening to their boss, you know, coming home, rinse and repeat. You know, most people don't care. You know, the government's not interfered with their lives. They don't need anybody to interfere with their lives. But then you got people like Glenn Beck and other people who are out there that are saying, look, something crazy is going on. So who's crazy? The people who are going to work 9-to-5 normal, or the people who are saying something's wrong and we need to address this? We started this off, I mean, that was the same idea with gun control on the first episode.
Doesn't have to be either one of those two.
What would it be? What's the third one? Everything is awesome.
BLM, federal government. Maybe those guys are crazy. Well, just what we've been talking about. You asked the question, which one's crazy? The normal people who go to work for every day, or these guys over here, right? It's like, who said either one of those two are crazy? Maybe they are normal, and because of the media, the way they turn things upside down, it's actually the government that's crazy.
The way that things are set up, it just creates a system that rewards you for being difficult, and it rewards you for being compliant with the state. You know, the reason you see Democrats moving open borders, you know, and against, you know, tightening borders, is because you see one political group gets their voter base from that, and the other political group doesn't. So you see the system that rewards certain groups and rewards the parties associated with them. So they're always going to act in their party's best interest, and that's self-preservation. They're not inherently attempting to be evil. Well, not most people. There probably are some crazy people that are doing it for the sole purpose of evil, but it rewards them to act in their best interests, and those best interests are not in the best interests of the entire United States. That's one of the problems with an indirect democracy covering such a vast geopolitical spectrum such as the United States. If that makes any sense.
It does. That's a total another conversation for another day I'd love to have. Put that on the agenda there, Charles. We'll have to have that conversation. I've been following up a number of items on that particular area in particular. What was that reference? I'll think about it here in a second. I was just researching it the other day, and I was like, oh no, this is crazy. Let's see if we can go find it. Oh, don't let me hold up. I'll find it. I'll throw it back over to you.
I mean,
Howard Piven. That's it. I knew I'd find it.
I am.
There you go.
I'm still trying to figure out, you know, what this means, if it means anything. I mean, I know by tomorrow it's going to be irrelevant and it's not going to matter. Nobody's going to care. There's not going to be, nobody's going to care. Nobody's going to talk about it. So
yeah, let's take a step back 50,000, 100,000 feet and see what that really means in the big picture of things. That's a good point.
The grand scheme of things, this is just going to end up hurting freedom as a whole. These sort of armed rallies. I mean, I'm not against them, especially when the injustices are there. But you're going to have 100 government papers written about this and how we need to increase militarization of the police to deal with this threat. Because what if these guys, rather than stand around, actually just started opening up on everyone? So you're going to see, oh, look at this. We've got a threat presented, and the government has to go and counter that by turning around and giving free MRAPs out to, Joe Bob's sheriff department. So it's.
So what would you say would be something that we can do? One of the reasons why we started WFT America is to have this conversation and talk about what we might be able to do to address some of these issues and concerns that we're seeing. What would you recommend?
Keep using the First Amendment in a traditional sense, but keep the Second Amendment there to preserve it. So rather than immediately showing up in BDUs with plate carriers and ARs, you show up, with signs. And if the signs fail in a way that, they start immediately bulldozing you guys, they Kent State your ass, Tiananmen Square, what have you, then maybe it's time to bust out the plate carriers and BDUs. But you can't be an alarmist reacting to every situation with plate carriers and BDUs. That just creates a boy who cried wolf kind of situation, and you're not going to take these people seriously, except the government will, in the sense that they will increase militarization of police.
Yeah, I don't know that I agree with that one. I think that the narrative sounds good, but I think the practice, the implementation, is not possible given the structure that's in place today. The media propaganda, the spin, the government control. I don't think that's possible.
If anything, nowadays it's even more weak because your average person, they don't get their more and more people will turn to, they'll flip on Twitter or, talk to their friends about it. You don't have newspapers being the sole delayed source of information anymore, and even cable media is losing viewership, and even the people that are viewing cable media are so attached to that point of view that they're going to trust the cable media, regardless if the sky is not blue. So you're living in a time of more and more independent media thanks to the internet and self-published media systems like Blogspot, WordPress, whatever,
WTFA.
It's definitely getting to people. I don't know how many viewers this program has, but
none yet.
Exactly.
At least one.
There's at least one. I mean, I can actually tell you right this very second. We've got at least 3. I mean, there's at least 3 people listening to this right now. I mean, there's. Lost one. Oh, that sucks.
Is that you, me, and Jack?
No. It's excluding you, me, and Jack. We got.
Okay.
Now we're down to 1. Oh, now we're back up to 3. There are 3 people that are actively watching this on Google right now. They're watching the raw portion of it.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And continuing on that route, they nowadays even more so they can't just show in and haul everyone off to prison because that's going to create more martyrs to the cause. I mean, you look at the Arab Spring and how those were handled. You've got a couple examples there, and obviously the Middle East is not an exact representation of how things play out here, but you have dictators who tried nothing. You have dictators who tried negotiating, and you have dictators who tried military force. The ones who tried military force immediately got international backlash. You saw the United States and the United Kingdom immediately start bombing Gaddafi. Gaddafi had the rebels completely encircled in western Libya and was just shelling them and gradually moving in armored vehicles. Yet you immediately got a coalition of other states as soon as they started shelling civilians. So it's important to have the Second Amendment there to preserve the First, but if you immediately jump to the Second whenever something's not going your way, you're just going to cause people to see you as a danger. So people get freaked out by open carry on the street. They get freaked out by the dude walking through Safeway with an AR. There's nothing wrong with the guy walking through Safeway with an AR. As long as he's obeying the laws and regulations, but it still makes people uncomfortable. And if you keep making people uncomfortable, they're going to become against your cause. So it's an exercise of discretion. BDU pants and ARs aren't always the answer. They're an effective answer, as we've seen with Bundy Ranch and this, but eventually that effectiveness is going to get dried up when they write down everyone's plates and then go arrest you for intimidation, 4 months after the event is dissolved, kind of deal.
And they do that?
Not that I know of, but they arrested that, what was his name? Adam something or other, who open carried in D.C. as a part of a protest.
Huh.
I vaguely remember that one. Well, gentlemen, I need to run. Thanks for the time.
Well, I think that'll do it. I think we're gonna wrap this one up. Jack, thank you for your insight and your I don't even know where you get your information from, but it's kind of scary sometimes. Dennis, as always, the conversation is fantastic, and to the three people who have listened to this live, check us out on WTFAmericaNews.com. The podcast will go into iTunes like normal, and it'll be all cleaned up with the intros and all those other wonderful things. Again, for the evening, I'd like to thank both Dennis and Jack. I am Charles Tendell, and that's the end of WTFA Episode 3, and I'm really not sure if we solved any problems, but hopefully the conversation gets started.